If you ever dread answering the question of what do you do in your business, then this is the episode for you, because I'm going to be unpacking how to clarify your mission as a business, which I feel like is just a fancy word for what it is that your business actually does. This is episode number 313 of Starting the Conversation. I am your host, Alice Benham, and I would say this is one of the biggest things that I support my clients with. When I am talking to people about their strategy, when I'm working out, where do you want to be? How are you going to get there? So often this question comes up of, what is the mission of this business? And it's a very important question for us to answer, because almost like an onion, it's the very core where all of these layers are kind of built on top of it. Or maybe we can use a less oniony analogy and think instead about the foundations of a house. The clarity that you have as a business owner is everything. It sets the tone for your strategies. It enables you to be intentional, to be specific. It helps you to measure the success of your action. It helps to keep you aligned. And I think on top of that, for us as the business owner, when we have more clarity, we also have more confidence. I think we feel clearer in what we're doing. And so all of this to say, clarity is incredibly key. But I also know, because my job is helping people to get it, that it's not always easy to come by in business. Whether you are thinking about your mission for the very first time, or whether you are coming back to this question, I think it's really important in business that we frequently ask ourselves, and I'm just going to add in that when I say frequently, I don't mean like daily necessarily. Let's not give our businesses whiplash by getting new clarity that often. But at least every few months, maybe just quarterly, having this moment where we come back to basics and go, right, has any of this changed? Has anything been refined? Does anything need to be answered differently? Because as I said already, the clarity that we have is like the foundations of a house. And the foundations of a house dictate the type, size, amount of house that can be built on top of that. So the clarity you have in your business is going to dictate so much of the action that you take and the plans that you then create. So what I'm going to talk about within this episode is our mission specifically, which I believe is a piece of the puzzle when it comes to our clarity. You might have heard me talk before about the idea of having an inner compass as a business owner, something that I came up with a few years ago to help us understand the key elements, the key components, if you may, of clarity, where in order for us to really feel intentional with our businesses, we want to have clarity in these 4 key areas that make up our inner compass. And those 4 key areas are our purpose, our mission, our vision, and our values. So purpose being why we do what we do, mission being what it is that we actually do within our businesses. That's what I'm going to be discussing today. Vision being where are we going, what are the goals, what's the plans, and then values being, how do we do things, what's our approach, what makes us unique. If you want future episodes on those other pieces of the inner compass, let me know, because I can absolutely do that. But like I said, today I'm going to be zooming in on that idea of mission, because it's the piece of the inner compass that I believe is the biggest. It's also the piece of the inner compass that I think makes the biggest difference to the whole rest of your business. And because of that, I think it can be the one that we get the most stuck with. So as I've said already, your mission is really what you do as a business. And that is something that will continue to evolve over time. And what you do as a business is going to influence a huge amount of things around your strategies and the action that you take. What you do shapes your business model, the offers that you develop, what you sell, what it actually is that you are giving to your clients and customers. Your mission also massively influences your marketing, because when we're thinking about content and what you want to create and where you're showing up and why, all of that should be directly reflecting the mission that your business has. And I think just generally for us as business owners, it's almost, it's part of our inner compass, which is exactly why I called it that, because it guides everything, right? When we're thinking about messaging, when we're working out what we want to be known for, when we're, introducing ourselves to people, as I said right at the start of this episode, it's the clarity that we have in our mission that's really going to enable us to do those things. So what I'm going to talk you through in this episode is 3 areas within our mission that I think it's really important to get clarity in, and hopefully a few pointers and a few exercises or prompts that you can use to get more clarity in that specific area. This might be an episode that you want to have a way of taking notes in front of you in case thoughts, ideas, and new clarity start to come to the surface. So the 3 key areas I want to talk about within your mission is who, what, and how. Now, this is not a kind of conclusive summary of mission. I could talk for hours about this topic, but I want to give you some really actionable steps here. So 3 elements that I think make up this idea of our mission, which is who, so who your business actually exists to serve, what you do, so what you actually offer, what you create, what the core of your business is really about, and then how you do it. So your approach, your values, what makes your business unique. I believe as business owners that if we have clarity in those three areas, and if we continue to allow those areas to evolve and get clearer over time, all of those things I've already talked about, your strategies, your messaging, your marketing, your decisions, your confidence, all of those things are going to improve. So without further ado, let's talk about that first piece of the puzzle, which is who. It's interesting timing as I'm recording this episode because today I'm actually in one of my clients' communities as their guest expert. You probably know of her, the fantastic Sophie Miller behind Pretty Little Marketer. She is a remarkable entrepreneur. She's got a fantastic community and she's got a membership that's got hundreds and hundreds of people in it. And I'm in there today answering all of their questions about their strategy. And what is so interesting and actually kind of inspired this episode is that so many of the questions are around who. People are asking, right, how do I work out who I'm trying to reach in my content? Or how do I know in my business who I should be targeting? Who should my ideal client or customer be? Lots of people having dilemmas where they feel like there's multiple people that they want to be talking to at once, or they're not quite sure which direction to go in terms of their target market. Now, when it comes to working out who our business exists to serve, what we're talking about here is your ideal client or your ideal customer, right? We hear those phrases discussed a lot online. And I think this can be quite a complex thing to work out because we have all of this advice being thrown at us around our niche and being super, super specific that it can be hard to know when we are being specific enough, but still allowing ourselves to have what might feel like quite broad or diverse audiences. Now, I do not believe in order for your business to be effective, you only need to be speaking to one individual. I don't know if you've ever heard advice like that before when you're thinking about your ideal client or ideal customer, where it's like, right, give them an age, give them a name, how many dogs do they have, where do they live, where do they go on holiday, what clothing brands do they buy from? You know, we're forced to create this almost very, very individual understanding of our ideal audience, which I believe is not only fairly unhelpful because those kind of demographic qualities don't actually really help me to think about, you know, connecting with that person or building a business that's going to serve them, but also I think it just puts us into a box that we don't need to be in. If we think about this as a spectrum, right, where we go from like speaking to absolutely everybody, which we've all heard the advice, right? Try and speak to everybody and you speak to nobody. So that doesn't work. Okay, we've got the other end of the spectrum then. That's what I just talked about, right? Being super, super specific, speaking to like one very specific demographic type of person. I don't think we need to be at either end of that spectrum. And I know as business owners, we like to think in extremes, but so often where we need to find ourselves is in the middle ground, where there's a bit of a gray area. Your audience can be specific while still feeling broad and diverse in certain ways. And the key to that is thinking about the who in terms of psychographic, not demographic. A demographic version of your who is what I just talked about, right? She's called Kate. She lives in North London. She has a sausage dog. She likes to shop at Neptune. She's got H&M clothes. She goes on holiday to Greece. Like, sounds specific, right? But nothing about that around Kate actually helps me to build a business for her, build services or products for her, create content that's going to connect with her. So let's flip it over to the psychographic. Okay, psychographic is far less about what would they tick on a census and far more about who are they beneath the surface. What are their interests? What are their pain points? What are their challenges? Who are they? What do they care about? What are their goals? When we clarify the who of our business through that lens, that's how we find that middle ground where it's specific, but it's not overly putting things into a box and being specific for the sake of it. So I encourage you, when you're thinking about the who of your business, to go through that route. Think about those psychographic elements that I just listed. Get really clear on who your business is for in terms of those things: interest, pain points, challenges, goals, values. What you'll then find is you're able to be specific, but you don't feel like you're kind of cutting people out of your business for the sake of it. Now, if you're in the scenario of trying to speak to multiple people at once, which is something I hear a lot of, and I realize that's challenging, what you've got to work out is how do those people overlap? So if you think about it a bit like a Venn diagram, you know, you've got one circle is audience A, one circle is audience B. You've got to understand if and by how much those two people overlap in terms of those psychographic qualities. Because it might be that you feel like you're speaking to different people, but actually, beneath the surface, they're very similar. So you're going to be able to create similar content, create similar offers for them. Or it might be that in doing that exercise, you realize, oh, this isn't even a Venn diagram. This is two circles that are, across the page from each other. Then you need to think about how that is going to look in your business, because you can speak to two completely different audiences. But A, there's got to be some kind of red thread, common theme that pulls it all together. And B, you've then got to think about splitting out your business model and your marketing strategy to speak to those two sides individually. So this is the first area of your mission to get clear on. Who does your business exist to serve? And what I want to say, first of all, before I also talk about any of these other parts of mission, is a big part of this is letting things feel imperfectly clear. I work with people a lot on this stuff, and I see the cogs turning where we start to ask these questions and we go, okay, I'm just going to get this perfect. I'm going to get it right. I'm going to sit with this until I feel like I've completely got it. Let me just say, as someone who sees this, that doesn't exist. Okay, you are never going to feel perfectly clear. Your clarity is never going to be at 100%. And that's a good thing, right? Because clarity is best gained through action. So when you're thinking about these areas of your mission, what I want you to think about is, how do I get to 80% clarity? How do I get to that good enough place where I feel like there is clarity? Maybe there's still some question marks. Maybe there's still some questions to be able to answer in future, but you trust that your action is going to be what helps you to answer those questions and to fill in those gaps. So that is the first area of your mission, is the who. And my biggest tip for you there is define the psychographic over the demographic. Make sure that you keep coming back to the who, because people change, right? Culture is changing, the world that we're living in is changing, and so therefore the who of your business is naturally going to change as well. If, by the way, final note I'll say here, you have no clue who your business exists to serve, what you've got to work out is what is it that you want to achieve, and then reverse engineer it. Okay, what is your business on a mission to actually do? What is your purpose? And then who is the who that would involve? Speaking of what your business actually exists to do, that is the second component of your mission, which is the what. Now, obviously, your mission as a whole is this question of what do you do? But here I'm speaking specifically about what it actually is that your business delivers. So here I'm getting you to think more about your specific product, your specific service, or maybe if you've got a diverse business model, all of the different things that you've got as offerings and what it's actually all about. Now, there's an exercise here that I would encourage you to think about, which is your business existing to take people on a journey from A to B. Okay, stick with me here. Whether you sell products, whether you deliver services, whether you do a hybrid of the two, my business is the latter, and this still works. Okay, I want you to think about point A and point B and an arrow going between them. Okay, point A is where people are at when they come to your business, the people that you help, and where they are when they are in need of your support, your product, your service. This is the first step you want to get clarity on. Where are they at? What are their problems? What are their goals? Then what I want you to think about is point B. Okay, this is the end of their journey of working with you, of buying your product, of engaging in your business. Because of what you do, where are they? What is the impact? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What difference does your business have on them? I'm hoping you've already got a little bit of clarity in those two areas. Maybe there's still some work to be done though if you want to dig in deeper. Where, however, you're really going to find value is understanding what the arrow is that goes between those 2 points. The arrow between point A and point B, the arrow that takes people on that journey, is your business. It's your products, it's your services, it's your offerings. And the more that you can get clear on the journey that your business exists to take people on and what you specifically are doing to take them on that journey, what that arrow is, the better you're going to be able to get at describing what your business really exists to do. When I'm doing this work with people, what I notice we naturally do is talk just very functionally about what we do. I am a photographer. I am a branding designer. I sell homeware items. I am a business strategist. And we kind of lean a little bit too much, I think, into that job title, because ultimately the job title only says so much. And it's understanding it on that deeper level where we really understand, right, what journey is our business taking people on? Like, what is it that we're actually doing? Because your business is not actually the product or service that you sell. Your business is the transformation, is the journey, is the thing that is happening within that product, within that service. If I give you my stationery brand on paper as the example here, what we sell is stationery, but actually if I take that a level deeper, what we sell is stationery that really has tools within it that helps you to get clarity in your business, to set goals, to focus your time, to be organized. You can see that definition connects a huge amount more, right, than just we sell stationery. So that is what this second component of your mission is all about, the what. And not just, like I said, the what of give me your job title, but the what in terms of the impact that your business has and what you really do within your work. If me talking about this is making you feel lost and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even know the answer to this, this is where data and research and testing comes into play. If you're not yet familiar with the impact of your business, the journey that it's taking people on, that's maybe just an invitation to do some research there, do some testing, get some of that feedback in that's going to help you to answer these questions. It's okay if when we're sat with a notebook by ourselves, we don't know the answers. Usually there's some kind of research test or external action we can take that's going to help us to get this clarity. So that's the second piece of the puzzle in terms of our mission, is the what. And the third and final piece of this mission puzzle that we're constantly working out in our businesses is the how. So we've had who your business exists for, what your business actually does, and then finally we want to think here about how you do it. Okay, those first two components are really key, right? We kind of get them. It's like, right, that's who I help and this is what I help them with. But the how, this is really going to be the part that gives your business the edge. This is the part that makes people choose your business over someone else's. This is the difference between someone else's version of this business and your version of this business that you're running. Because what we're thinking about here is how you run your business, how you do what you do. And I would distill this into thinking about your values and your approach. As I mentioned at the top of this episode, values is a whole component of its own within our inner compass, and there's a lot more work that we can do around it, but it's still relevant here because values really shape how we run our businesses and what we stand for. And our approach is a similar thing, right? Thinking about the way that we do things and the how that happens within our business quite uniquely, and what's different about our business compared to others that may do something similar. Now, this element of your mission, the how, is often there, but you just might not have the wording for it yet. Very rarely, or in fact never, have I seen businesses need to make up their values or make up their approach. But what they have had to do is give it some time to bring those things to the surface, to name them, to sit with them, and to develop the words for them. You do not come up with your values, you name your values based on what is intrinsically important to you. You very rarely will be making up your approach, but what you need to do is look at your work, look at how you do things, look at what's important to you about the way that your business is run, about the way that you deliver your products or services, and then ask the question of, right, what approach is that? How can I label that? How can I name that? Understanding the how of what we do is not only going to help us bring that into our messaging and our content, it's going to help people choose your business over competitors, but it's also going to give you a bit of guidance. So you know, right, this is what I stand for in my business. When you're making decisions, it's so much easier to know what's right for you when you know your values, when you know your approach, because you can easily pick the thing that best aligns with that. So that is our third and final element of our mission, is thinking about how we do things. And like I've already mentioned, my encouragement there is not to try and engineer these things, not to try and think of them from scratch, but look at your behavior. One of my favorite prompts here is to think of the negative. Often we're more connected to it than the positive. So maybe you want to think about the kind of business you would hate to run, the service providers in your space that really don't reflect your values, or what it would look like for you to run a business that feels super icky and unaligned for you. I bet you know some answers to those questions, and then you can invert them to figure out what your values and approach are. So in summary, we've got these three key elements of our mission. We've got the who it is that our business is actually existing to serve our ideal clients and customers, the what it actually is that we do within our businesses, the journey we take people on, the impact of our work, and then finally the how do we do what we do, what's unique about that in terms of our values and approach. I would really encourage you, as you've been listening to this episode, to now reflect on which of those three you think it's going to be most valuable for you to spend a bit of time in. I know when it comes to clarity, it's a forever thing. So even as I say this, I'm like, I could spend a bit of time coming back to all three of those in my businesses. But I want you to really prioritize. Pick one of those three that you know is going to unlock some benefits in your business if you were to get more clarity in that area, and figure out a next step. Often, in order to get this clarity, there's one of three things we can do. We can reflect, so we can answer these questions, sit with them. We can research, so you can look for data. You can look at competitors. You can look at the data already in your business. You can do some experiments, and you can also test. Right? Action breeds clarity. So if you're really not sure, don't feel like you failed, go and take some action. You're going to learn a lot more from taking action than you are by sitting with a notebook and pen. So that is my challenge to you off the back of this episode. Work out what the best next step for you is. And if this is something that is really resonating for you, maybe you quite like having someone give you the prompts, the exercises. What I spoke about at the very top of this episode, the inner compass, is actually something that I have a whole workbook on. It is called the Clarity Workbook, does what it says on the tin, and it's going to give you a whole load of prompts in those 4 key areas. So your purpose, your mission, your vision, and your values. They are the best prompts that I have honed over the last 9 years of working with clients. It's really just a workbook that's going to give you lots of different exercises, lots of different questions to help you level up that clarity in your inner compass, which, like I said, leads to better strategies, more intentional action, more confidence as a business owner. So I'll link that Clarity Workbook in the show notes. It is currently in my birthday sale. So for the next few weeks only, you can get that for 27% off, which is the biggest discount there will be until the next birthday sale in a year's time. So if you're ready to take that next step, I really encourage you to go and grab that workbook. It's one of the most affordable, accessible things that I sell because I believe that this stuff is so key in business and I want people to be able to access it. So head to that link to get the Clarity Workbook for 27% off and go and complete an exercise from this episode that you think is going to help you get more clarity in your mission in your business. Thank you for tuning in, and let me know which part of the inner compass you want me to talk about next.